Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't do anything.
All right. So local orgs. I think I mentioned this. Oh, I talked about it on the elections page a bit. But yeah, I think that having like small organizations is probably, like Rhino's talking about, like getting like local Mississippi folks involved and stuff. Might be a good way to branch things out. So I had I asked Rhino to do CC Friends of CC Music USA, but the he hasn't really done anything with it, so I'm not really sure. Like,
Well, I mean, until we have some numbers, don't we just keep it as one thing?
Well, I think
what's the push against that?
The thing is that if we're gonna have like time zones, like people aren't coming to the meetings at 2:00 outside of the US.
Right.
And then, Sam's not going to come to the meetings in the morning. So like,
where's he at?
He's in Massachusetts. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm all for that. If that's two different things, right? So if you break it, then I think you get less people trying to come to the one thing, and maybe you get more people to come to the other things because it's more local to them.
Yeah.
And maybe you break up whatever critical mass that you're already starting to build. So I don't know, but
yeah, but I mean, maybe that's the argument for doing
Stoffel. Maybe, if you had a German one or Europe one or something, we would have Stoffel be involved more. But then I don't know. But then Stoffel is kind of a peripheral part of what we have here, and I don't know that he would still be part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way that I see it is there's all these things happening in CC Music already. Those are going to continue to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So we as a global organization don't need to like come together that often, I don't think. I guess the way, this is something I've been thinking about since we started the Community Music Awards in 2017. But, if you really want to get people engaged, you need to have local artists that they're interested in and stuff,
I agree with that.
So there's no way for a global organization to pick out local folks for everybody though. So I mean, I guess what would be ideal is if let's just take the US as an example, that we had somebody step up in all 50 states to run like a state level organization, and then once a year all of those folks come together and say, hey, what do we need, what are our blockers, let's get together and figure out what's going wrong, is there something that they learned in North Dakota that could be useful in North Carolina, let's get together and talk about this stuff.
But what would the local groups be doing to serve? What would they be serving? To be a local group. I mean, yes. I understand doing shows.
Yeah.
Right. But in real life shows, And I guess I could imagine online things that are have to be, live timed things. But outside of that, I don't know, you know what I'm saying, what the what the
Well,
local group would be doing that isn't
so
perhaps better served is more globally.
they could help with like touring musicians when they come into
Right.
their area.
That's what
Um,
I'm. That's on the local show. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, so I guess they could do shows that
Right. But
are
if somebody's going to tour, Carsey Blanton, she was in Europe. She was
yeah.
in the East Coast. She's in the Midwest. And to me, like the global thing would help more with that than if she had to like, oh well, I got to make sure I find the person who might still be put in.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I think that yeah, the global org can help
Right.
like connect people, but like you still need somebody in the area that's like the point person that says like, hey,
I
this is the
agree.
person you contact when you go to Chicago or to Nashville or wherever.
Right.
So whether or not those are organizations or we just have, I mean, that sort of like gets into sort of like the steering committee you know talk. I mean, again, I think we've got to have like a person. If we're going to do a bunch of different things, then we have to have people own those things.
Right.
I think I put that. Where did I put that? Right there. Yeah, right there. Um, so I mean, maybe it's not orcs. Maybe
Yeah. Subsections or something.
yeah. And again, like I picked the state as but maybe that's not the right unit.
Local
Maybe
contact or something.
maybe yeah. Maybe it's regional. So um,
Right.
I mean, CCHQ moved from having like regional organizations to having like being membership driven. Maybe that makes sense at like a certain size. I'm not sure. I think the problem with or the potential problem with being like a membership organization, and this gets into the fundraising talk too, is then like your goal ends up just being like getting more members. Like pay your dues, and then that's we're just churning
Right.
people. And I don't know. I guess the thing that I have had success with in the past is like I was president of the Madison Linux user group. That went well. Like I did stuff in high school. I did stuff with like our high school organizations, and those are like ultra local. And like in college. Like that. We are the organization for like members of this institution, and I had a lot of success with those, getting people involved and stuff, but we largely didn't have any connection to like a you know broader organization, and I think that would be ideal, to like cross pollinate ideas. I mean, I guess the idea is if you deputize somebody, then they'll feel empowered to like do stuff.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the idea of like,
So I was involved with the Howard Dean campaign,
yeah,
and that was obviously a national thing. But then there was also we had local meetups in
yeah,
Chicago. But then I also had a group going at my college, UIC,
yeah,
and so that was all connected, but it was nothing, without the national thing too. So
yeah. I mean, I
it's
guess
just
that's kind
tough
of
to say. Yeah.
what I'm sort of like thinking here is that like you have like smaller blocks for people to get involved with, and then you have like a global sort of organization that people come to. But
Yeah.
you know,
So like, they had a video that we could play at, while people were walking through the quad. So, but
yeah.
they had to make the video, you know.
Right,
We didn't make
yeah,
the video.
yeah. The whole idea is that the global org provides like
Right,
centralized resources
right.
for the local stuff. You know,
Yeah. And so just with everything being on the internet, I feel like the global is really important, but then you also have to, like, that's the two things that's what I was trying to focus on. You have the shows, which can only be local,
yeah,
and then you have the streaming and the podcasts and all that, which can be at a bigger level. But again, like if we had the monthly show, you can also have the locals. Oh, well, we're going to hear from, Nashville this month or this week or whatever. But there was a cool show in here, and we had a banner on the stage about CC Music, and we talked to some people that didn't know about it. And now we've got 3 people that, new bands in that area that are releasing CC. And I don't know.
yeah. I guess the overarching theme here is that like we've got to find some way of breaking up tasks. Like
Yeah,
you've done some work on the website, but like
right,
we need somebody who's like they're the website person.
right.
Like we need like that kind of stuff. And so I think regionally is one way for people to connect to things, and it solves some of the time zone and language barrier issues potentially. So that was, and I don't know that we necessarily need to do it in one direction. Especially, as we grow, there could be, other opportunities. But I think, like in I mentioned like Burrow, like I think there's some real missed opportunities in New York. There's a lot of CC folks there, and like they don't do anything together. So maybe the regional thing, maybe there's specific places where that makes sense.
Right.
Again, I mentioned earlier, I think Indonesia is one, and they may already have something, I don't know, but yes, no wave. I probably need to try to talk to them and figure out what's going on over there. But there might be some targeted places where we could find somebody to help do some local stuff.
So let's say you have a New York show, right?
Yeah.
So would they want to, get 3 CC Music bands together to do a show that's branded Friends of CC Music? And would that be, I don't, as much as they might care about CC Music, maybe they don't care about it, but at least it's like a coalescing argument, reason to have a 3 band.
Yeah,
show,
I mean,
right?
it could be that, or I mean, just go like have pizza or get a coffee or something. Like just like be humans together with similar interests, and like stop just like typing on your damn keyboard about this shit and like go talk to people. Like that's kind of what I mean, and like
I mean, that's
the people in New York know what the people in New York want. I don't know what they want.
right.
I don't know what they need. But if they're all just like doing their own thing and not talking to each other, they're never going to figure it out. That's to me. I mean, like
I worry that I worry that there's a mental overlap between people who want to stay on their computers and CC World.
Well, there is some of that, yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's
So reaching out to them is kind of
again
hard.
So I think this is why we need, maybe Rhino is like the live show guy, and he just like does that,
right.
and like, what do you need from me? What resources? How can I help? But like, I don't have the time to like be involved in that, and then like,
Well, that's
like,
yeah. I mean, he's got his rest of his life, but if there was some way that we could fundraise money and
Yeah.
we could fund, shoot him a, sustainable lifestyle,
Well,
he could tour around and be the CC guy and like be pulling bands together and be pulling scenes together. And
yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to happen. I mean, like if he's putting on like 2 or 3 shows a year, like we can still offer if we're, if we become like, an LLC, which I think is probably not the way to go, or a corporation in, Minnesota or wherever, then, we'll provide some like liability protection for him, and we'll offer a way to like bring in funds, so that like, he's not having to, deal with all of that with his own personal taxes and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, again, we're going to have that conversation later, but, I think, with both Net Label Day and with the stuff that Rhino's already doing, like legally there's like no protection. So like, if on Omar's stream he plays, like a band that's listed their stuff under Creative Commons, but it turns out that they've, like taken something and then, he gets sued for a public performance of that, like he has no protection. So, if Net Label Day were part of some sort of legal entity, then it would be the entity that was getting sued, not Omar. So
wouldn't they sue both or no?
No, I mean, like an employee of an organization,
Okay.
you can't. I mean, they might try, but that's not how it works. So, but we would need to, operate Net Label Day. I mean, even if Omar is the guy that actually does the work, like it would need to be something that the organization like owns the domain for and stuff like that. So, that's ultimately like an Omar decision and a Rhino decision whether or not they want to do it that way. But I think that's definitely something that an organization can provide. So, I mean, places like Jamendo and in CC Mixer, they don't need that because they already have that. So,
so I mean, from a legal thing, are you saying that people should not be playing any music unless they're an org?
Well, so I think Net Label Day, I think is a big enough deal to warrant some protection. I'm concerned about like fires and people dying at live shows, and that like Rhino being sued for wrongful death and like his life being completely destroyed. I think that's a real concern that I don't know that Rhino has thought through.
That wouldn't be covered by the location that has shows at other times.
It might, depending on their arrangement. He was talking about doing shows at like a record store, and I'm not sure they have like the proper insurance for that kind of stuff. Maybe they do. I don't know. So, and then it's like, maybe like the family sues the venue, but then the venue's insurance company might come after Rhino still. I mean, so, yeah. How often does that stuff happen, especially if you don't have a band that's like dealing with pyrotechnics and stuff? Like, it is what it is. But if you increase the amount of shows that you do, the more likely you're going to run into something like that,
But then we'll be big enough to pay for it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that would come, but initially, like, yeah, it's just you get some protection by having the corporation. So that's something that we'll have to talk about later, is whether or not now is the right time to do that, because we can always file later. All right, I know we took a break, but just to sort of keep on schedule here, let's go ahead and take our 5-minute break, and then we'll talk about the bylaws here.